In 1634, a French Jesuit missionary wrote something in his journal that he could not explain. Algonquin Trine. A member of the Algonquin tribe had become convinced he was transforming into a monster. He craved human flesh. He begged to be killed before he could hurt anyone. The missionaries called it possession. The tribe called it something else. And what happened next was documented in court records, psychiatric literature, and police reports for the next 300 years.
The frozen wilderness of northern Canada. No roads, no light, no sound. For 6 months of the year, nothing moves here except the wind and something else. 14 independent indigenous nations across northern North America. No contact with each other, no shared written language, and every single one of them described the same creature, in the same season, in the same forest. Something tall moved between the trees at night, emaciated, smelling of decay, with eyes that caught the moonlight wrong. Every tribe had a name for it. The Algonquin called it Wendigo. A French Jesuit missionary wrote the first European account. An Algonquin man had become convinced he was transforming into a cannibalistic spirit. He was begging to be killed before he could hurt anyone. The footprints were always wrong, stride too long, depth too shallow for something that size, and they ended in open clearing. No tree to have climbed, no explanation. 14 tribes, separated by hundreds of kilometers of wilderness. No historical contact. When anthropologists finally mapped their Wendigo descriptions, the similarities were not approximate, they were exact. Tall, skeletal, skin pulled too tight over bones, smell of rot, appears in winter, near starving communities. 14 independent descriptions, one creature. The rock art predates European contact. Tall, thin figure, arms extended, among winter trees. The Algonquin were not illustrating a story, they were documenting a warning. The Powhatan Dictionary, the first written record of the word Wendigo, pre-European contact. The word was already old when they wrote it down. Winter in northern Alberta means temperatures below -40. Nearest settlement, weeks away. In those conditions, isolation does something to the human mind that no other environment replicates. Swift runner, Cree trapper, former guide for the Northwest Mounted Police. He arrived at the Catholic mission in spring 1879, alone. His wife, mother, brother, and 6 children had not been seen since early winter. He had been 25 miles from emergency food supplies. He weighed 200 pounds. His family was gone, and he was not malnourished. The Northwest Mounted Police investigated. They found the camp, charred bones, human skulls, a small moccasin shoe stuffed inside one of the skulls, a beading needle through the eye socket. The trial documents are real. The evidence was real. The charge was murder and cannibalism of wife, mother, brother, and 6 children. He admitted everything. He said the Wendigo made him do it. He was not starving. That is the detail that changes the entire story. This was not famine cannibalism. He had access to food, 25 miles away. He chose not to go. DSM-IV, the diagnostic manual used by every psychiatrist in North America. It listed Wendigo psychosis as a culture-bound syndrome, a real psychiatric category attached to a specific people, a specific environment, a specific season. The symptoms were consistent across every documented case. Depression first, then loss of appetite, then insomnia, then the hallucinations began, and then the craving began. By the 1960s, researchers had documented 70 cases in the psychiatric literature. 70. Across 3 centuries, each one following the same progression, each one in winter, each one in the north. The archive holds more than anyone has read. Court records from 6 provinces, missionary journals in 3 languages, police reports filed and forgotten. The documentation exists. Most of it has never been fully analyzed. Jack Fiddler, OG Cree shaman and chief. Known across his territory for one specific ability, he could stop a Wendigo transformation before it completed. He claimed to have done it 14 times. In 1907, the Canadian government arrested him for it. He died in custody before sentencing. The exorcism ritual existed because the transformation belief was real to the people experiencing it. You do not develop an elaborate counter-ritual for something you do not genuinely fear. The anthropologists recorded it, carefully, in notebooks that smell of mildew now. The accounts were consistent. Person begins refusing food, begins describing visions of family members as prey animals, begins requesting death before the transformation completes. Something moves in the dark between trees, not always visible, sometimes only heard, sometimes only felt. The northern communities did not have a word for overactive imagination. They had a word for what they saw. The academic debate has never fully resolved. One side says Wendigo psychosis was a genuine psychiatric condition, unique to its cultural and environmental context. The other says it was a constructed diagnosis. Both sides cite the same cases and reach different conclusions. The frozen lake holds its surface for 6 months. Under the ice, movement. Above, stillness. The Wendigo operated the same way. Present below the surface of normal life, then suddenly visible. The Northwest Mounted Police were not credulous men. They were frontier law enforcement. When they filed reports describing Wendigo-related incidents, they used clinical language. They described what they found. They let the evidence speak. Swift Runner confessed openly, not reluctantly. He showed no remorse at the mission. He joked with the priest the night before his execution. He converted to Catholicism. And at the moment before the trapdoor dropped, he gave a speech admitting everything. The mission existed here. The gallows stood here. The execution happened here. December 20th, 1879, 7:30 in the morning. First legal execution in Alberta. The evidence is in the ground. The elder spoke for 2 hours. His grandfather had known people who knew Swift Runner. He described the Wendigo not as a monster from outside, but as something that already existed inside people, waiting for the right winter to emerge. Jack Fiddler's 1907 case is the last officially documented Wendigo-related legal proceeding in Canadian records. Between 1634 and 1907, 273 years of documentation. Then, officially, silence. The exorcism was not superstition. It was crisis intervention. A person in acute psychotic break with cannibalistic ideation in an isolated winter community with no access to psychiatric services. The ritual was what they had. Sometimes it worked. The field notebooks describe the same thing again and again. A person who was functional, who had a family, who had skills, who had standing in the community, who, in a specific winter, under specific conditions, became something the community no longer recognized. The footprints ended in the clearing. Investigators in 1879 could not explain it. Investigators who came later reviewed the same reports and could not explain it. The documentation exists. The explanation does not. 63%. That is the percentage of documented Wendigo psychosis cases where the affected person carried out cannibalistic behavior before intervention or death. Not rumors, not legend, court records, police reports, mission accounts. It moved between the trees and then it did not. That is the consistent element across every account, across every tribe, across every century. Visible and then not. Gone back into the forest, waiting. The DSM-IV removed the standalone Wendigo psychosis category. It falls now under cultural syndromes, a broader framework. The behavior it described did not disappear from history. The name for it changed. This tree has been here longer than any of the documented cases. It was here when Swift Runner walked these woods, when the missionaries wrote their first frightened journals, when the rock art was carved into stone by people who had a name for what they had seen. Japanese Yuki Onna, Siberian Irquiem, Scandinavian Draugr. Different cultures, different continents, same description. Winter, isolation, hunger, and something that emerges from those three conditions that cannot be fully explained by any single clinical framework. The darkness between these trees is the same darkness that existed in 1634, in 1879, in 1907. The forest has not changed. The winter has not changed. What entered those winters, we still argue about in academic journals. Starvation changes brain chemistry in ways that produce paranoia, hallucinations, disordered thinking. That is established neuroscience. What it does not explain is why the specific hallucination across independent cultures was always the same one. 6 months of winter, no contact with outside world, food running out. In those conditions, the human mind finds the worst possible version of whatever the culture has prepared it to fear. The northern communities had prepared it to fear the Wendigo. The statistics exist. 70 documented cases, 273 years, concentrated in the same geographic region, the same season, the same cultural context. Psychiatric conditions do not typically display that level of geographic and temporal specificity. The last clear documentation is 1907, Jack Fiddler. But the forest north of the documented cases does not end in 1907. It continues for another 3 million square kilometers, and no one has been systematically looking. Something shifts between the trees, deep in the darkness, large enough to displace snow without breaking branches, moving without sound in conditions where nothing moves without sound. The documentation ends. The forest does not. 273 years of court records, police reports, missionary journals, psychiatric case studies, anthropological field notes. The Wendigo is the most documented entity in the folklore record of North America, and we still cannot agree on what it was.